How do you stack more than 2 million stone blocks, some weighing several tons with no cranes, no steel, no engines, and create a monument so precise that it still stands more than 4,500 years later? For centuries, people have answered that question with aliens, forgotten civilizations, or mysterious lost technology. The real story is even more astonishing. The pyramids weren't built by magic. They were built by ordinary humans who solved one impossible problem after another, until the impossible became reality. The Great Pyramid of Giza isn't proof that ancient people were primitive. It's proof that we have consistently underestimated them. The first mystery isn't how the pyramids were built. It's why they were built at all. Around 4,600 years ago, during Egypt's 4th dynasty, Pharaoh Khufu ordered the construction of what would become the largest pyramid ever completed. To the ancient Egyptians, the pharaoh wasn't merely a king. He was believed to maintain the balance between the gods, nature, and human society. His tomb wasn't simply a grave. It was intended to ensure his journey into the afterlife and preserve cosmic order itself. Earlier rulers had already experimented with monumental tombs. The Step Pyramid of Djoser, designed by the brilliant architect Imhotep, transformed the traditional mud brick mastaba into a massive stone monument. Later came the Bent Pyramid and the Red Pyramid built for Pharaoh Sneferu. These projects weren't failures, they were engineering lessons. Each pyramid taught builders something new. How steep could the sides safely be? How should weight be distributed? Which stone worked best? By the time Khufu's reign began, Egypt possessed generations of accumulated experience. The Great Pyramid wasn't the first attempt. It was the result of decades of continuous improvement. This changes everything. Instead of imagining one miraculous leap, picture thousands of skilled workers refining techniques across multiple generations until they were ready for the greatest construction project the ancient world had ever seen. Now imagine the construction site before the first stone was laid. The ground itself had to be nearly perfect. Modern surveys show that the base of the Great Pyramid is astonishingly level, differing by only a few centimeters across more than 13 acres. Achieving that precision without laser instruments sounds impossible, but Egyptian engineers understood something timeless. Water always finds level. Archaeologists believe surveyors likely used water-filled trenches, leveling techniques, measuring cords, wooden stakes, plumb bobs, and simple sighting instruments to establish an exceptionally flat foundation. Teams carefully cut away uneven bedrock while filling lower areas until the platform reached remarkable accuracy. Then came orientation. The pyramid points almost exactly toward the 4 cardinal directions. Even today, the alignment differs from true north by only a tiny fraction of a degree. Scholars continue debating the exact surveying method, but many believe Egyptian astronomers used the predictable movements of circumpolar stars or careful solar observations to establish direction with extraordinary precision. Think about what this required. Before moving millions of stone blocks, builders had already solved complex problems involving mathematics, astronomy, surveying, and long-distance planning. The pyramid didn't begin with heavy lifting. It began with careful thinking. And once the foundation was complete, another challenge emerged that seemed almost impossible: finding, shaping, and transporting millions of tons of stone without a single modern machine. The Great Pyramid contains an estimated 2.3 million stone blocks. That number alone makes the project feel impossible. But here's the detail that changes everything. Not every block weighed dozens of tons. Most of the limestone used in the pyramid's core weighed roughly 2 to 3 tons. Still enormous by modern standards, but manageable with organized labor, simple machines, and careful planning. The much heavier granite blocks used in the king's chamber, some weighing between 25 and 80 tons, represented only a tiny fraction of the total structure. Most of the core limestone came from quarries located just south of the pyramid itself. Workers cut channels around each block using copper chisels, dolerite pounding stones, wooden wedges, and stone hammers. Once enough rock had been removed, the block could be separated from the bedrock and shaped before transport. The granite followed a far longer journey. It was quarried nearly 900 kilometers away in Aswan, where traces of unfinished obelisks and ancient quarry marks still reveal the techniques Egyptian stoneworkers used. During the Nile's annual flood, large boats carried these massive stones north toward Giza, taking advantage of the river that served as Egypt's greatest transportation highway. Recent archaeological discoveries have strengthened this picture even further. In 2013, researchers studying the Red Sea port of Wadi al-Jarf uncovered the diary of an official named Merer. Written during Khufu's reign, his logbook describes crews transporting fine limestone by boat from the Tura quarries to Giza. It's one of the oldest surviving administrative documents in history. For centuries, people wondered whether anyone had recorded the pyramid's construction. It turns out someone did. Not with dramatic stories of secret technology, with the daily paperwork of moving stone. Getting the blocks to Giza was only half the battle. The next challenge was moving them across land. For years, historians debated how ancient Egyptians managed this enormous task until a remarkable clue emerged from a wall painting inside the tomb of Jehuti-Hotep. The image shows a colossal stone statue resting on a wooden sled while dozens of workers pull it with ropes. At the front, one man pours liquid onto the ground. That small detail puzzled researchers for decades. Then modern experiments provided an answer. Scientists demonstrated that lightly wetting sand dramatically reduces friction. Moist sand becomes firmer, allowing heavy sleds to slide more efficiently instead of sinking into loose grains. Too much water creates mud. Too little changes nothing. But the right amount can significantly reduce the force needed to pull massive loads. Suddenly, an ancient painting became an engineering diagram. The Egyptians weren't performing miracles, they were manipulating physics. Teams working together could haul enormous blocks using wooden sleds, carefully prepared paths, ropes made from plant fibers, and an intimate understanding of their environment. It wasn't easy, it required coordination, rhythm, and hundreds of skilled laborers working as a single unit. And once those stones reached the construction site, the greatest engineering puzzle still remained. How do you lift millions of heavy blocks higher and higher until they form a monument nearly 147 meters tall without cranes or steel? This is the question that has fueled more conspiracy theories than any other part of the pyramid story. How are the stones lifted? The honest answer is that archaeologists still debate the exact design of the ramps. No complete construction ramp has survived because most were dismantled after the pyramids were finished, allowing their valuable stone and mud brick to be reused elsewhere. But the evidence strongly supports one conclusion. Ramps existed. The real debate is what kind. One possibility is a long, straight ramp extending from the ground to the growing pyramid. This would have been simple to build, but eventually would have required an enormous amount of material, possibly rivaling the pyramid itself. Another proposal suggests zigzagging ramps climbing one face of the structure. Others favor ramps that wrapped around the pyramid as construction progressed. Some researchers have even proposed a partially internal ramp hidden within the outer layers, though that idea remains debated. Whichever combination was used, the principle stayed the same. Workers weren't lifting blocks vertically through the air. They were reducing the angle of the climb. Simple machines can achieve extraordinary results when combined with patience and thousands of coordinated workers. The pyramid didn't rise because gravity stopped working. It rose because the builders learned how to work with gravity instead of fighting it. Another common myth claims the pyramids were built entirely by slaves. Modern archaeology tells a very different story. Just south of the Great Pyramid, excavations uncovered an entire workers' settlement complete with bakeries, breweries, kitchens, storage buildings, sleeping quarters, and even cemeteries. The people buried there received respectful funerary treatment close to the monuments they helped construct, something highly unlikely for enslaved laborers treated as disposable. These discoveries reveal a highly organized workforce. Many laborers were probably skilled craftsmen employed year-round, including stonemasons, surveyors, carpenters, engineers, rope makers, and supervisors. During the Nile flood season, when agricultural fields lay underwater and farming temporarily stopped, thousands of additional workers could join state construction projects as part of a system of labor obligations while receiving food, clothing, shelter, and medical care. Recent studies of skeletons from workers' cemeteries even show healed fractures and evidence of medical treatment. If an injured laborer recovered from broken bones, someone had cared for them. Someone had fed them. Someone had allowed them time to heal. That isn't the picture of a workforce expected to work until death. It is the picture of a civilization investing in the people responsible for one of history's greatest engineering achievements. And despite this extraordinary organization, one final mystery remained. How could thousands of workers place millions of stones so accurately that more than 4,000 years later, modern engineers still admire the precision of their work? Precision didn't happen by accident. It happened because ancient Egyptian builders measured everything. When you stand before the Great Pyramid today, it's easy to focus on its size, but engineers are often more impressed by something far less obvious. The four sides are almost perfectly aligned. The corners meet with astonishing accuracy, and many of the original outer casing stones fit together so tightly that even a thin blade would struggle to pass between them. How was that possible? Not through mysterious machines. Through repetition. Every block was inspected before placement. Surveyors constantly checked lines using measuring cords stretched between wooden stakes. Plumb bobs ensured vertical accuracy. Squares, levels, and simple sighting tools kept each course aligned with the one below it. Mistakes weren't allowed to accumulate. Small errors were corrected immediately, preventing tiny imperfections from becoming major structural problems higher up. That's one of the oldest lessons in engineering. Perfect structures are rarely built through perfect decisions. They're built through thousands of small corrections. The Great Pyramid is a monument to patience as much as it is to ambition. There's another detail most visitors never notice. The pyramid wasn't built all at once. It rose layer by layer over decades. Each completed course became the working platform for the next. Teams specialized in different tasks. Some cut stone, others shaped blocks. River crews transported materials. Surveyors checked measurements. Rope makers supplied new hauling lines. Carpenters repaired sleds and built scaffolding. Overseers coordinated deliveries so construction never stopped waiting for materials. Think of it less as one giant project and more as an enormous ancient factory operating in perfect sequence. Every worker depended on another. If the quarry slowed, transport crews waited. If transport failed, builders stood idle. If measurements were wrong, everything above them would suffer. Maintaining that chain of organization for roughly 2 decades may have been just as impressive as moving the stones themselves. The Great Pyramid wasn't simply an engineering achievement. It was a triumph of logistics. And that's exactly why so many modern engineers remain fascinated by it. The builders solved management problems that still challenge massive construction projects today. Yet despite everything archaeology has uncovered, millions of people still believe humans couldn't possibly have built the pyramids alone. The final chapters reveal why those myths persist, and why the real story is ultimately far more remarkable than any legend. Why do so many people believe aliens built the pyramids? The answer has less to do with evidence and more to do with perception. When people see the Great Pyramid for the first time, they encounter something that feels impossible. A structure originally standing nearly 147 meters tall. More than 2 million stone blocks. Precision that survived thousands of years of earthquakes, weather, and human activity. The scale overwhelms the imagination. And when something feels impossible, the mind begins searching for extraordinary explanations. But archaeology works differently. Every major discovery over the last century has moved the explanation closer to human builders, not farther away. We have workers' villages. We have quarry sites. We have unfinished monuments showing construction techniques in progress. We have tools. We have transportation records. We have administrative documents. We even have graffiti left behind by work crews inside hidden chambers of the Great Pyramid itself. The evidence doesn't point toward mysterious visitors from the stars. It points toward thousands of highly skilled Egyptians. Ironically, attributing the pyramids to aliens diminishes the people who actually built them. The real achievement belongs to human ingenuity. Recent discoveries continue strengthening that conclusion. In 2017, researchers using advanced scanning techniques detected a massive hidden void within the Great Pyramid. Headlines immediately exploded with speculation. Secret chambers, lost treasures, hidden technologies. The public imagination ran wild. But scientists approached the discovery differently. The void proved something important about the sophistication of the builders. Creating enormous internal spaces while maintaining structural stability required careful planning and a deep understanding of weight distribution. Whether the space served a construction purpose, relieved pressure on surrounding chambers, or had another function remains under investigation. The key point is this: every new discovery reveals greater complexity in Egyptian engineering, not evidence that engineering never existed. Again and again, the answer leads back to the same conclusion. Ancient builders understood their craft far better than most people assume. And the closer researchers examine the pyramids, the more impressive those builders become. Because the greatest mystery was never how the pyramids were constructed. It was how a Bronze Age civilization organized knowledge, labor, mathematics, transportation, and engineering on such a colossal scale thousands of years before modern industry existed. The final part of this story brings all of those pieces together and answers the question that has fascinated humanity for centuries. If you gathered every accepted piece of archaeological evidence into one place, a clear picture begins to emerge. The pyramids were not built with a single revolutionary invention. There was no forgotten machine, no mysterious energy source, no secret technology that vanished from history. Instead, the Great Pyramid represents something far more powerful: thousands of ordinary solutions working together. A civilization that mastered surveying before construction began. Quarry workers who understood how stone fractured. Boat crews who turned the Nile into a transportation network. Engineers who knew how to reduce friction with sleds and prepared surfaces. Skilled craftsmen who shaped blocks with astonishing consistency. Architects who anticipated how millions of tons of stone would distribute their weight. Each solution by itself seems simple. Put them together, and they become extraordinary. This is how nearly every great human achievement has happened throughout history. Not through magic. Through accumulated knowledge passed from one generation to the next. The Egyptians didn't wake up one morning knowing how to build the Great Pyramid. Their grandparents made mistakes. Their parents improved the designs. Their own generation perfected them. The monument standing at Giza is really a monument to centuries of learning. So how did ancient people build the pyramids of Egypt? Not by defying the laws of physics, by understanding them. They relied on mathematics instead of computers, human muscle instead of engines, copper tools instead of steel, simple machines instead of cranes, careful planning instead of guesswork. Most importantly, they believed that no task was too large if it could be divided into thousands of smaller ones. That's the lesson hidden beneath millions of stone blocks. The Great Pyramid isn't impressive because ancient Egyptians possessed supernatural abilities. It's impressive because they proved what disciplined human cooperation can accomplish. For more than 4,500 years, wars have been fought, kingdoms have risen and fallen, entire civilizations have disappeared, and technologies once thought revolutionary have become obsolete. Yet the Great Pyramid still dominates the Giza Plateau, refusing to surrender to time. Every sunrise that falls across its weathered stones delivers the same silent message. Human hands built this. Hands that grew tired. Hands that bled. Hands that belonged to people whose names history mostly forgot, but whose work became immortal. Perhaps that's why the pyramids continue to captivate the world. They're not simply tombs. They're evidence that determination, organization, curiosity, and shared purpose can create something that outlives empires, religions, languages, and even memory itself. When you look at the Great Pyramid, you're not looking at an impossible mystery. You're looking at one of humanity's greatest reminders that the most astonishing force on Earth has never been alien technology or supernatural power. It has always been the human mind working together with millions of willing hands.